it's time once again, guys. We're on Q&A number 4, so I'm gonna pull right off of Q&A number 3. I'm just gonna go right down the list, and I got perfect amount of time to do this. I got chicken in the oven, I got a rock star, I got a video uploading, so I got a little bit of time. So we're gonna do this live, like Bill O'Reilly says. We'll do it live. Fuck it. So starting with the first question: how does metal affect your workouts? You feel a change when you're listening to metal? I used to train, like at my buddy's gym and stuff like that, and I'd bring some CDs in. There's actually probably a couple videos still on my channel where I got videos of him and I training together, or I trained in there, and it would help a little bit, but I can pretty much block out anything when I train. I have just memberships all over my area, so like I go to I have a couple powerhouse gyms I go to a couple LA Fitnesses, even their garbage music that they play in there. I can tune anything and everything out. It does not matter what it is. I've been doing it for years. I don't train with headphones on unless I'm like deep in the contest prep or I'm doing cardio and I'm like right at those stages to where just everything sucks and you're just so fatigued, so tired, so hungry. You don't want to be bothered by anyone. I'll incorporate headphones for stuff like that, or if I'm not deadlifting or anything, because it'll get in the way, like when I go to lock my belt on, and I don't like cords hanging and dangling. I don't like shit around my ears. I don't like any distractions when I'm training. So I don't use headphones, and I've been doing that for, almost 22 freaking years. Just no music, unless, like I said, if it's contest prep or something. But yeah, metal will it'll help out if I have the opportunity to listen to it, like if I'm at my buddy's gym. Yeah, we can listen to anything we want because his gym is part of his lawn care business. It's in the back, so we can. I am gonna kill my neighbor. I don't know who that is, but that is pissing me off. I hate having neighbors when you live in an apartment complex. It's ridiculous, man. All right, this one is: every metalhead has their first experience where they heard some heavy metal and instantly fell in love. What was the first metal you heard that spoke to you, and how old were you? That was in East Ventura when I heard Cannibal Corpse. I'd probably have heard like Metallica and stuff in the past when I was a little kid, but just didn't recognize it or didn't really pay much attention to it. When you're at a really young age, 4, 5, 6 years old, you're not really too much aware of what's going on. But like around 9, 10 years old, when my dad took me to see Ace Ventura, that's when I saw Cannibal Corpse, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then my entry music to picking up a guitar and learning how to play was like Metallica and Slayer. And then I started getting slowly into Pantera, Sepultura, Fear Factory, Cannibal, when I was allowed to finally start convincing my parents to buy those CDs for me. That was always fun. Alright, where are we at now? This is a good one. What is your dream rig, dream guitar, and amp and pedals? I don't really get into pedals too much. I don't know much about them. I'm like those, like the early 90s Metal Zone days where everyone thought that pedal was just absolute dog shit, but like we all kind of did the same thing. We didn't know any better. We didn't plug it in through the effects loop in the back. We'd always plug right into the front, and it just made you sound absolutely horrible. I remember that. It's like I remember my Metal Zone pedal that I had, like $150 back then too. I think they're still that much. But it's like you would stomp on the pedal, all of a sudden it would sound like just a fucking raging crowd. Like, it would just make that noise as soon as you kicked it on, or I'd get the just static. Yeah, that thing was just, it's because we weren't doing it right. I'm sure a lot of people were in my shoes with that too. Yeah, so I wasn't a big fan of it. Ever since then, I never bought a distortion pedal again because I had such a bad experience with the Metal Zone pedal. So I just use whatever I get out of the amplifier. Or I, like when I do my recording, the uploads that I upload, like when I record or I do cover songs, I do plug into my Line 6 Tone Port UX1, and I just use Pod Farm and use that. So it's like I'll record the tracks, and then I'll go back and I'll cover it again, jam along with it through my Line 6 Spider 4. I actually got 2 of them now. My dad gave me an amp. He gave me a 75 watt that was barely used, and I'm still trying to figure that one out. There's a lot of different settings, and it's got a little bit more gain on it than my 30 watt does. As much shit people talk about a Line 6, I mean, this microphone on this camcorder here makes it sound 10 times worse than what it really sounds like in real life. So, I mean, you guys are half right when you say line 6 sounds like shit. You're half right. So I agree a little bit, but not totally. But as far as, what my dream rig would be, I always wanted a BC Rich, just like Pat O'Brien. I wanted that 7-string V. Ever since I saw that in Live Cannibalism, I wanted that guitar from day one. I think that is just the meanest, most aggressive looking guitar. You got that beast headstock. You got I want the Speed V body. I don't like the Junior V as much. The Speed V is cool, like what that BC Rich is. That body with the beast headstock, 7-string. Even though I've told you guys in the past that I never really dug 7 strings too much, but I've had a USA Warlock 7-string in the past. That thing was the meanest sounding guitar, and it played great. It was, beefy. It was heavy, made out of mahogany, and it had a pretty good neck profile on it. This thing just sounded deadly. It was killer. So I would get that, and I would throw, because that guitar had before the EMG 81 7-string models were even available, where you could actually buy them. That guitar back then, because it was like a 99 or 2000 model, and those pickups at the time, you could only get them if you ordered the guitar from BC Rich, as far as what I remember. And those pickups, man, they were just freaking killer. So that would be the guitar and the pickup that's what I would want out of the guitar and the pickup combination. Amp, I would probably, I don't know too much about amps, but I mean, those Kemper Profiler amps that are out now, they're ridiculous expensive, but there's a lot of shit that you can do on there, and it's like the size of a toaster. I'd rather carry that around than carrying big half stacks or full stacks. And then, like I said, on pedals, I've heard good things about Maxon pedals, from like Eric Rutan and Rob Barrett. They swear by those Maxon pedals. I would be interested to check those out, see what those sound like, but I guess that would be my dream rig and amp pedal combination or whatever. So that's a good question. I like that one. If you could be in any band, which one and why? I've talked to Paul Ryan from Origin about this several times when they would come around and they'd be playing. I told Paul, I tell him this every time. I say, Origin is the band that I did not start, that you started before I did. Like, I'm talking album 2, Informus. That's still to this day, in my opinion, the hardest hitting, heaviest death metal album ever. That album is just so brutal. I can't even put into words how brutal that album is. That CD, I'm surprised it still works, because I've played that so many times. When I first heard that CD, I was like, man, this is the band. This is how I write. These, these gallops, these super fast down picks, these chunks. This is everything I ever wanted in a death metal band that I would have put together. It is Origin from, album 1 and 2, particularly album 2. That's my dream sound, my dream band. That's what it would have been. And I tell Paul too, I'm like, man, when are you gonna come out with Informus 2? Because I really want I want that album again. That shit is just badass. So that would be my dream band right there. It's Origin. From that era, like the early 2000s. Moving on to the next question. By the way, you guys that are giving me all this feedback and helping me out with recording and stuff like that, giving me recommendations, I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome, because I don't know where to turn with that stuff. So yeah, once again, I appreciate you guys helping me with this stuff and giving me pointers, because I have no idea. Do you listen to stuff like Infant Annihilator, Slaughter to Prevail, Guttural Slug? Those other 2 bands, 2 and 3, I don't know who those are. I never heard them. That's the problem. Like, metal is just so, especially brutal death metal, that scene is just so saturated with bands. There's just too many out there to even keep up. I've heard Infant Annihilator before. I'm not really into that kind of stuff. It's a little too much for me. Maybe if I gave another few songs a try, I might possibly get into it, but it was just a little bit too chaotic, too hard to follow, the first couple songs that I've heard from them. So not really too familiar with Infant Annihilator. And like I said, the other 2 bands I've never heard before. What is the best advice you could give to any beginner guitar player? Well, I would say if you can afford it, go see a guitar teacher. I've never had a guitar teacher, never took lessons. I learned everything on my own. So it was just hours and hours of just investing and just sitting around trying to figure things out on my own and just watching music videos and kind of, I guess, trying to copy what like Jeff Hanneman would do or some of the other metal people that I would see on MTV back when they did play music videos. So I was just trying to make best with what I could learn from that, because didn't have the internet back then, so I was kind of on my own. And then you're so limited back then too when you're younger, because I come from the early '90s days and lived in a when my parents got divorced, I was in a low-income townhouse apartment complex, and there was no metal kids around to really relate to, so I was on my own with that stuff. But yeah, that would definitely be my advice. And try to when you talk to the guitar teacher, because I've heard a lot of teachers are always trying to push, I mean, some of the stuff they're trying to teach you is important, I get it, but I mean, who wants to sit there and learn like Yankee Doodle and these just songs that you're never gonna play? I mean, I think you should learn what you're into and what you're trying to play, and just keep layering and building on from there. I just wish, I don't know how those guitar teachers are nowadays, but I mean, that's what I've always heard, is they try to push stuff down your throat that you're really never going to use, almost like when you go to school and you're learning algebra. I still to this day have never used algebra. I still use, addition, subtraction, multiply, divide. I have never used algebra in my life, so I guess that's kind of a reference right there, a comparison of what I'm talking about with guitar teachers. And then just if you got any buddies that play and they're really serious about it, they're passionate, they practice, and they're actually go-getters when it comes to trying to learn music. Hang out with them as much as you can, latch on to them, and you guys just pick each other's brain and try to encourage each other, and learn from him, and then they learn from you, and it'll keep your motivation where you won't give up, because a lot of people give up. They get frustrated and they just quit. So there was a lot of times where back then, even when I sucked, when I was like really bad at playing guitar, it's like my first few months of learning how to play, I was trying to play like Metallica 1 and fucking Master of Puppets. I don't know what I was thinking. I couldn't do any of that. But I bought the books, and I would just get so frustrated. Oh, this is impossible. And I'd take the book and I'd chuck it at the wall, because I just thought it was just impossible to do. But you find out later, you just keep doing it, you keep getting back up, trying again, and then you eventually get it. And then you're just so damn proud of yourself. You feel so accomplished because you put all that effort into it. It's just hours and hours of effort and practice, and you just get good at what your art's in, So let me move on to the next question. This is a pretty generic, basic question, but I've been seeing this show up quite often. What kind of razors do you use? I use a Bic 5-blade or the Gillette Fusion, the 5-blade. I could grow out my hair. I'm kind of on the fence with that too. Thinking about maybe growing it back, but this is just so damn convenient and easy to maintain. And then we got summer coming up, and it's just I just like rocking the bald head. Every couple of years I'll switch back and forth, because when my hair grows out, it's really, really thick, and then the only thing I can do with it is spike it. I got really thick, wavy hair, and that's the only thing I can do with it. It just turns into a pain in the ass, and this is not a pain in the ass, so I love doing this. So yeah, I use a 5-blade razor. It gets everything nice. Every now and then I'll cut myself, but not very often with those razor blades, so that is what I use. Are there any sports that you like besides bodybuilding? Not really. I do listen. I told you guys in one of the previous videos, I think it was the other Q&A, that what I listen to, like when I'm at work or besides metal, I do listen to a lot of, I do listen to sports radio, but I don't watch sports. I mean, every now and then I might put on football, like during the season, but not very often. Not to mention, there's not much passion in football around here. Detroit Lions absolutely blow dick. So just not really a sports fan around here, because all our teams just totally suck dick. They suck a whole dick. So yeah, not really any room to get into sports around here. But if I were to watch something, it would be football. I just like seeing people crush each other. Do you ever... Okay, this is a pretty good question. Let me, this is a little bit long, but let me analyze this here. Did you ever get stuck in a rut for a long time throughout your process of learning guitar where you just felt like you weren't progressing? If so, what was the hardest rut you ever struggled with? What techniques were involved? How did you work your way out of it, and how long did it take? If I can remember correctly, there was a period of time, it was about, I think it was like my 4th or 5th year playing guitar. That's when I really started getting into the Cannibal Corpse, and I started getting really good at learning music by ear, where I would just like cassette tapes or CDs, I'd just keep replaying over and over and over. I remember at the time when Vile and Gallery of Suicide came out, I could play both of those albums front to back, every single song, riff by riff, and I had them like 95% perfect. And it took a lot of effort, a lot of time, but learning a lot of Cannibal Corpse stuff was what really got me further ahead, and that actually convinced my dad. It's like I graduated to the Randy Rhoads, the Jackson Randy Rhoads 1, the USA model that he bought me, because he never seen anything like that. I was playing that stuff at Guitar Center, and they had one on the rack, and it was just a steal of a price, and he picked it up for me just because I was playing all this crazy trills and you know the Cannibal stuff, just your fingers going a million miles an hour. But after that though, it's like I did get into a little bit of a rut, because it's kind of like I graduated to that chapter of playing guitar, and then I started hearing these other techniques when I met somebody who moved from the west side of the states. He came over here, and he introduced me to like Dying Fetus and stuff like that, and I had never really heard Dying Fetus. I might have heard them on a demo, years prior, but I wasn't familiar with some of the other techniques that they were doing, which was those arpeggios and those sweep picks. So that was a new technique that I wasn't even aware of, and I remember I still have trouble with it. I'm not the best at it, like that's definitely an area that I would have to practice more on too, but that was kind of like a rut, you could say, because that technique I struggled with. And then triple picking, or the gallops rather, those were pretty hard to get. Eventually I started getting better at those. That just came from just trying to do a lot of Sepultura, early Sepultura, Beneath the Remains, Schizophrenia, because there's just a lot of just nasty fast gallops on those albums. This band Prejudice, that used to be I think they disbanded in 2009 or something. They did one more album and then they were done. That's a band from Belgium. Super lightning fast gallops, just crazy fast. I was always trying to do those, just keep at it. Eventually I was able to work my speed up. I'm actually kind of in a rut with those. It's like my down picks got faster, and my endurance to down pick at the speeds that you guys have seen in like my down picking video or some of the other uploads that I've done, that got faster. But all of a sudden my gallops have gotten a little bit slower. They're just harder for me to get, and I don't know what the reason is for that, but that's something I have to go back and I got to really work on. So you guys will start hearing it when I start uploading some of my early material that I recorded in 2008. There's some stupid fast gallops on there. Like, that's when my guitar playing was at its peak. Like, I was just doing shit that because I can remember, I have all the tablature on it, looking at it and then listening to it. Like, I was super fucking fast on my guitar. And then I go back and try to do some of those riffs, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, I can't even do this anymore. I suck. But no, yeah, to answer that question, I've been through some ruts like I just shared with you, and then you just got to keep practicing. Well, Derek Roddy hates that word, and I get where he's coming from, where he talks about he doesn't like to go into thinking of it as practice. It's more or less of just time, and just keep doing those repetitions, keep playing the songs. Just even if you can't play it, try to just push yourself to play those songs that are like out of reach, and eventually you will be able to get through those plateaus, and you'll be able to bust through. So we're gonna move on to the next question, if there's any more on here. Okay, this one's about my, ooh, don't drop the phone, Kev. About the Green Jacks and about the, somebody was curious, they could tell there were EMGs in here, which they are, but they're just the stock EMGs, those piece of shit HZs, the stock pickups that come with these guitars. I mean, they're okay, but you gotta, if you, like for what I have, you gotta really crank the gain to get any kind of good sound out of it, especially if you're trying to hit pinch harmonics. And I noticed with, you know, doing taps and pull-offs, hammer-ons, it just doesn't pick them up. And you gotta really, or if you have like a tone port like I have, where you can, on the pod farm, you can incorporate a pedal. That's what I have to do. That's the only way I'm gonna get any kind of extra beef out of the pickups. But other than that, yeah, those pickups suck, they gotta go. So pickups that I'm looking to get into without spending a whole lot of money, because I looked into those Fishman pickups and like the modification work and how much they cost, it's just not really something I'm interested in. So probably, I really like those Mick Thompson signatures, those Duncan Blackouts. Those are really good pickups. Or just, I'm kind of old-fashioned. I really like the Active EMG 81s. That would be a good 81, 85 set in there. What I really like about that BC Rich, though, it's got the Kerry King set, and it's got a 20 dB extra boost on it. You get a lot out of those pickups. Chicken, oh shit! We're gonna time out for a second. I gotta flip my chicken. All right, I have returned. Hopefully you guys are still here with me. Somebody else does Windows 7. Yeah, I'm so freaking lazy when it comes to updating my shit. Okay, here's another question. I thought I was all done with the questions, but there's still a couple more in here now that I'm picking through them. Which camera do you use to record your videos? I just have, this is a Sony Handycam. It's a CX405, I think. This camera was like maybe 200, 2.25, and it's got a couple different options on it. It ain't too bad, but that microphone is not very good on that camera. You know, you guys, I'd say I read all the comments, you guys bitching about that Line 6. It's not that bad, trust me. It's that fucking mic on that camera. But other than that, that camera's not bad for what you get on it, for how much you pay it. It's not too bad of a camera, but yeah, that's what I use. And then I used to use, I had my Galaxy S5. It did an okay job. I would do that mostly for Instagram, but every now and then I would do a video. And that phone actually had a decent mic on it, so some of the shit that I uploaded years ago from that phone was pretty good. But yeah, that answers that question. That's what I use for right there, that camera. CX405. Yeah, I'm looking to get in a DSLR camera because these things are, they like can't hold a candle to the video quality from what I've heard, and just, you know, there's a lot more things that you can do as far as pictures and stuff like that. You can't do much with pictures or anything for that matter when it comes to a camcorder. So that would be down the road, but this is fine for right now. See if I can find a couple more questions. Oh, here's a question. Okay. How do you move 3-note power chords so fast? Well, it depends what guitar I have. If I got the, you know, my BC Rich here that's in drop B, so I'm able to maneuver with those kinds of power chords because it's just a matter of laying your finger down on them. But I can do pretty much the same. I can nail it pretty good even on a standard setup too. If the strings are all just like regular standard tuning, or even if I tune it down and they're all still standard tuning, I can move just as fast. It's from playing a lot of Cannibal Corpse songs or trying to do Suffocation riffs and just bands like that. Just time of doing stuff, repeated repetition of all this stuff. That's how you get good at it. It kind of reminds me of like when I walked out there to flip my chicken over, and I walked back over here, and you know, right before I fired this camera up, I was just thinking about the time that my cousin called me a couple months back, and the first thing out of his mouth, he's like, "How the fuck have you been doing this for 20 years?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Man, it's like I had to go on a diet and lose, you know, doctor told me I gotta lose, you know, 40, 45 pounds, and I agree with him, but man, how you been eating chicken and vegetables and this and that for so many years?" I'm like, "Cause I ain't a pussy like you. You gotta want this shit." You know, I'm like, busting his balls about it, but that's what it boils down to. Same thing with guitar. I mean, you put your heart into it, you just give it everything you got, just practice and spend a lot of time doing it. You're gonna eventually get good at it. I mean, every guitar player that I ever talked to throughout my life that was really good, they all have the same thing in common. They just spend hours and hours in their room just doing that. You know, like when I was a kid, that was what I would do. If I wasn't on my BMX bike trying to do tricks and hurt myself, I was on my guitars for hours and hours just learning how to play and get as good as, you know, my Jeff Hannemans, my Kerry Kings, Pat O'Brien, Jack Owen, just all these people that I just totally looked up to and inspired me to play at those speeds and at that level, that skill level. It's just a matter of just how bad you want it. Just convince yourself that you can do it because other people around you are accomplishing it, and you can do the same. Just spend a lot of time doing it and you'll be fine, you'll be on your way. But that's gonna be a wrap, it looks like, on these questions here. Like I said in the previous video, just keep leaving your questions, your comments in there, and I'll just keep doing the best of my ability to keep answering these for you guys. If you guys are still here, I appreciate you guys watching this stuff, and I have some more videos on the way. Finally had some time between, I've been working a lot, I've been tired, I haven't had a chance to get on my guitars and do any more covers for you guys, but I just got around to it. Yesterday I did about 5 songs in a row, bam, bam, bam. So just keep a lookout this week. I'll have some more content online for you guys, and I always appreciate you guys watching, so if you guys like this video, hit a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you guys. Take it easy.
Thank you for all your cooperation.